The future matters just as much as the present.
ESPN Analytics released their Football Power Index for the 2023 season. The Eagles and Chiefs are the favorites to face off in the Super Bowl again.
Building a long-term and sustainable winner is the main priority for all NFL teams. So today, here are 5 NFL teams facing very dark futures and 5 with the brightest. Dark Los Angeles Rams. The Rams have been all in every year under Les Snead since 2017, Sean McVay's first year as the head coach. And you know, they should have zero regrets since the all-in approach led to 2 NFC Championship victories and, of course, a Super Bowl 56 title. But let's be real. The long-term outlook of this team ain't exactly promising. One of its core 4 players, cornerback Jalen Ramsey, was sent to the Miami Dolphins in a cap-saving move. The remaining core players, Matt Stafford, Cooper Kupp, and Aaron Donald, are coming off injury-riddled seasons, and they're all in their 30s now. Maybe the Rams can squeeze out 1 or 2 more playoff runs with this roster, but things are not going to be pretty 2, 3, or even 5 years from now. That much we can promise you. Bright Detroit Lions. The Lions have been rebuilding since 1957, so you know, it feels kind of weird putting them on this list. Hopefully we don't look too silly saying this, but hey, for once, it feels like this long-time losing organization is on the rise again. Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes inherited a team that was clearly attempting to tank in 2021. Fast forward 1 year later, Aaron Rodgers is out of the division, Kirk Cousins appears to be on his way out as well, and the Chicago Bears are, well, the Chicago Bears. In other words, the Lions are actually set up to be the kings of the NFC North for years to come. Is Jared Goff the answer at QB? Well, we aren't so sure about that. But the offense is loaded with young studs in Jamison Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs, and Penei Sewell. Hayden Hutchinson, James Houston, and Malcolm Rodriguez look like cornerstones to build around on defense. And if 2023 first-rounder Brian Branch comes as advertised, the Lions could have a perennial All-Pro patrolling their secondary. Throw in veterans like Frank Ragnow, Taylor Decker, David Montgomery, and Emmanuel Mosley, and you have a look of a team that's ready to win now and over the next decade plus. Dark Arizona Cardinals. Remember when the Cardinals started out 7-0 in 2021 and looked to be on the path to great things? Pepperidge Farm remembers. Murphy's Law has since applied to the Redbirds in every single aspect. They lost 4 of their final 5 games in 2021 and were blown out by the Rams in a wildcard round, and it has just been downhill ever since. Star wideout DeAndre Hopkins was suspended 6 games for violating the league's PED policy. Quarterback Kyler Murray suffered a season-ending ACL tear in Week 14 and will miss significant time in 2023. Locker room leader J.J. Watt retired despite a strong bounce-back season at age 33. GM Steve Keim resigned for health reasons, and head coach Cliff Kingsbury was fired. They were replaced with Monty Ossenfort and Jonathan Gannon, respectively. From top to bottom, this is the worst roster in football, and Murray's rocky relationship with the organization makes you wonder if 2023 will be his final year with the team. Take out Murray, and honestly, who can this team possibly build around moving forward? Right, Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers were a team stuck in limbo with Ben Roethlisberger, and their loyalty to the 2-time Super Bowl champion set the organization back a couple of years. But Big Ben took the hint, accepted that he was finished, and retired after the 2021 season. That allowed the Steelers to begin what should have been a long-term rebuild. Except, you know, this organization had some different ideas. They drafted Pittsburgh product Kenny Pickett with their first-round selection in 2022. Though he experienced his fair share of struggles as rookie, Mike Tomlin and the star players stepped up and produced a 9-win season. And so the Steelers' streak of not having a losing season since 2003 lives on. Pickett, Najee Harris, Deontay Johnson, Pat Freiermuth, and George Pickens round out a scary nucleus on offense. Not to mention that 2023 first-round pick Broderick Jones has the makings to be a franchise mainstay on the offensive line. The always stingy defense isn't going anywhere. The Steelers have a great mix of young and veteran talent on both sides of the ball, plus a top 5 front office and a future Hall of Fame head coach. Literally all the pieces are there for this organization to emerge as a long-term championship contender in very short time. Dark New Orleans Saints. Make no mistake, the Saints should be considered the frontrunners to win the laughable NFC South in 2023 and probably even in 2024. Derek Carr is by far the most proven QB in the division after all. But the Saints have an aging core and a miserable cap situation that will prevent them from making more big moves down the road. Carr, Cameron Jordan, Demario Davis, Michael Thomas, and Alvin Kamara only have so many productive years left in them. Outside of Marshawn Lattimore, Chris Olave, and Ryan Ramczyk, how many true star players do the Saints actually have under the age of 30? New Orleans is good enough to win the division, but I wouldn't really bet on them being a Super Bowl contender. Carr's presence will be enough to help them squeak out a playoff berth, but that's about it. If Bryce Young hits his ceiling in Carolina, and if Atlanta's young star-studded offense comes together, well, New Orleans will soon be an afterthought in the NFC South. Bright. Houston Texans. The Texans appear to finally be recovering after years of mismanagement by former head coach and de facto GM Bill O'Brien. The last 2 years of rebuilding were pretty painful, but the Texans are finally on the rise again. They had a home run with the hiring of DeMeco Ryans, that is for sure. The ex-San Francisco 49ers defensive coordinator was once a star linebacker for the Texans. A two-time Pro Bowler, Ryans played in Houston from 2006 to 2011, so he is very familiar with the organization and its community. Secondly, the Texans found their new franchise quarterback in C.J. Stroud, the number 2 selection of this year's draft. Now, to temper expectations, growing pains are expected, but Stroud has all the tools to be a bona fide superstar. Houston traded up for Alabama edge rusher Will Anderson Jr., adding yet another franchise building block on that defense to complement cornerback Derek Stingley Jr. Those two alone are more than capable of turning this defense into a juggernaut again. Throw in promising youngsters and John Mechie III, Damian Pierce, and Kenyon Green, and let me tell you, there's a lot to like about this offense. Veterans Laramie Tunsil, Shaq Mason, Robert Woods, and Jimmy Ward can also play some pretty big roles in mentoring the youngsters and getting them ready for prime time. The future is finally bright in Houston again, and we aren't talking about that Texas sunshine. Dark. Washington Commanders. The Commanders are a team stuck in the so-called mushy middle. They're barely good enough to compete for a playoff spot, but nowhere close to Super Bowl contention. That also means not being bad enough to land franchise-changing draft picks in the top 5 or 10 range. They have a top 10 defense led by Deron Payne, Jonathan Allen, and Chase Young. They have several dynamic offensive weapons, including receivers Jahan Dotson and Terry McLaurin, and running backs Antonio Gibson and Brian Robinson Jr. But they don't really have much on the O-line, and the QB position is still a giant question mark. And without a bona fide franchise QB, Washington is merely the 4th best team in a division that features 3 top playoff contenders. With a plethora of very good players, but few true franchise players in a leaky situation at QB, the Commanders just look like a team that'll be stuck in that 6 to 8 win range, which just ain't gonna cut it in a tough NFC East. Bright. Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks were supposed to be contenders for a top 5 selection. Granted, they did get the number 5 pick in this year's draft, but that was courtesy of the Denver Broncos thanks to the Russell Wilson trade. But we forgot that Pete Carroll and John Schneider are great at their jobs, so forgive us for thinking that the Seahawks would sink once Wilson got traded. Don't blame us for not forecasting Geno Smith as the comeback player of the year, because I don't think anyone out there called that one. Smith may be in his mid-30s now, but the rest of the Seattle roster is loaded from top to bottom. DK Metcalf, Kenneth Walker, Tyler Lockett, and 2023 first-rounder Jackson Smith-Njigba round out an elite set of skill position guys that should make any offensive coordinator jealous. The O-line, a never-ending weakness in the Wilson era, has 3 young stars in Damian Lewis, Charles Cross, and Abe Lucas. But you know, it's really the defense that has us especially excited about Seattle's long-term outlook. Tariq Woolen has the physical tools to be a top 5 corner in this league. Yet, he might not even be Seattle's best defensive player over the long haul. That nod instead will likely go to Devin Witherspoon, the number 5 pick of this year's draft. Pro Bowl safeties Quandre Diggs and Jamal Adams round out a scary secondary. Seattle has 0 glaring roster weaknesses. They are deep from top to bottom across the board. And they are well positioned to challenge the rival San Francisco 49ers and Philadelphia Eagles for long-term NFC supremacy. Dark. Las Vegas Raiders. Remember what we said about the Commanders being in the mushy middle? Well, that's where the Raiders are too. Releasing Derek Carr into the open market put Vegas on a logical path to begin a rebuild. Instead, they threw money at the injury-prone and inconsistent Jimmy Garoppolo and passed on the chance to take a QB in the stacked 2023 draft class. Vegas has 3 bona fide superstars in Devontae Adams, Josh Jacobs, and Max Crosby. Hunter Renfrow and Jacoby Myers are also useful pieces on offense, but the Raiders have a horrible offensive offensive line and a helpless secondary that will prevent them from emerging as a true playoff contender. Throw in the fact that they have to face the likes of Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert in the AFC West, and we have zero confidence in the long-term outlook of this team. Let's call a spade here. Raiders aren't set up to win in 2023, 2024, or over the next 5 years. They have been okay with mediocrity for a decade, and that process isn't likely to change moving forward. Bright Jacksonville Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence shrugged off an ugly rookie year alongside Urban Meyer and lived up to his billing as a generational QB prospect in year one with Doug Peterson. The Super Bowl winning head coach brought new energy and passion to this once demoralized roster. Lo and behold, the Jaguars emerged as a contender and won the AFC South Division crown last season. Lawrence, Travis Etienne Jr., Evan Ingram, Calvin Ridley, and Christian Kirk headline a deep set of weapons on offense. The O-line is in good hands with 2023 first-rounder Anton Harrison joining the likes of Brandon Scherf, Luke Fortner, Cam Robinson, and Walker Little. That defense is loaded with young stars and should also be a force for years to come. Tyson Campbell, Andre Sisco, Devin Lloyd, Trayvon Walker, Oyesade Oluokun, and Josh Allen give this team the makings of a top 5 D at every level. They don't have the respect that the Kansas City Chiefs, Cincinnati Bengals, or Buffalo Bills have garnered yet, but this is a team that's ready to emerge as a true AFC powerhouse for years to come. At this point, it doesn't feel like it'll be long before this organization claims its first Super Bowl title. But how would you describe your favorite NFL team's future outlook? Do you think it's bright, or do you think it's looking pretty dark? Let us know in the comment section below. If you like this video and learned a thing or two, clicking the like button helps out a ton, and hey, we appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, subscribing is a great idea because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.